Number 11, muscle confusion. And this is the idea that you need to change up your workout all the time. You need to shock the muscle, that kind of thing. Not so much. You do need to work hard. You do need to progressively overload. I think having some variation and variability in your training is a good thing. Don't always do the exact same 5 movements in your program. You want to, stay healthy and be injury resistant. You should do a somewhat wide variety of exercises, but your training does not need to change every single week. And I would say for most people, this is actually counterproductive because you don't really actually master or even learn most of the exercises that you're doing. And your muscles don't need to be confused. A muscle is just a muscle. A muscle is just a machine that responds to a stimulus. Can you imagine if you took your computer and you're like, all right, for optimal function, we're gonna slam you against a wall a few times just to confuse you? No.
Back up in your ass with the resurrection. Is the group harder than an erection that shows no affection? They wanna ban us on Capitol Hill, cause it's die, motherfuckers, die, motherfuckers.
All along it was the ghetto, nothing but the ghetto. Taking short steps, 1 foot at a time and kept my head low and never let go. Cause if I let go, then I'd be spineless. I'm going insane.
I think my mind just goes out of control and touch on subjects motherfuckers free to vote. I touch on it today, be leaving out. I see die, motherfuckers, die, motherfuckers steal. Die, motherfuckers, die, motherfuckers steal. Die, motherfuckers, die, motherfuckers steal.
Okay, if you believe in muscle confusion, you are confused. Number 12 is the idea that you need to do some specific exercise in order to build muscle. Like you have to squat, you have to bench press, you have to deadlift, you have to do lateral raises, and that is absolutely not the case. Again, a muscle is just a machine. It's a piece of meat that has a specific task. And so if you skip one particular exercise, there is always something else you can do. Okay, there are hundreds, if not thousands, of exercises that you can do. Many of them are in my book, which you can get on my website. Smoothest of smooth plugs. One guy was pissed off that I plugged my own product in my own video for a few seconds. And by all means, stick with the basics. Okay, I think most people should do some form of squat. But if you can't do squats for some anatomical reason, or if you just don't want to squat, kind of a lame excuse, but if you don't want to squat, you don't have to squat, there are other things that you can do. Now, the grain of truth is that some exercises are really, really good, and you probably should do them, but you don't have to do them. Number 13 is that you can change the shape of a muscle. Now, this one actually has a pretty dense grain of truth in that there's increasing evidence that you can increase part of a muscle. So for example, the biceps, you have the distal side and the proximal side. So distal is distant, proximal is in close proximity to the center of the body. If you do something like a preacher curl, it does place more stress on the distal side of the muscle, and you can get some distal regional hypertrophy. That being said, if someone has really peaky biceps, a lot of that is just muscle insertions. If someone has, abdominal muscles that look a certain way, usually there's no way to actually use a specific exercise in order to get that look. And a lot of people selling like these biceps peaking programs, a lot of them are just genetically blessed with peaky biceps. For the most part, you can just get a muscle bigger, but how it actually looks is mostly genetic. 14 is that cardio ruins your gains, or it kills your gains. Well, there is a morsel of truth to this. If you do a ton of cardio, yes, due to the interference effect, due to some hormonal and enzymatic reasons, I'll do a whole video on that. I've written a bunch of poor answers on it. mTOR, AMPK, cortisol, bunch of different reasons, fiber conversion. Yes, if you do a lot of cardio, if you're running marathons, due to the inflammation, due to those other factors, yeah, you're gonna have a hard time building muscle. But just doing a bit of cardio, 20 or 30 minutes a few times per week, that's not gonna negatively impact your gains. In fact, if anything, it's gonna be beneficial because you're gonna be in better shape, you're gonna have a better nutrient delivery system. Can't believe I just said that, but it's really a thing. And you're gonna get better absorption of vitamins and minerals and improve your insulin sensitivity and your overall health. If you're in the hospital, you can't make gains, okay? So taking care of your body, part of doing that is cardio, is gonna be a good overall thing. Number 15, time under tension. Now, I did a whole video on this up above, and there is a grain of truth to this. Tension absolutely matters. Time also matters. If you're only doing Olympic weightlifting, you're only doing, singles and doubles with that, there's just not very much time that you're actually doing work. Your volume is very, very low. Similarly, if you don't have much tension, you're curling the pink dumbbells, well, you're not going to see any kind of gains. So you do want tension and you do want time under tension. However, think about it like it's time under maximal tension. It's not just you do a set for 40 seconds or a minute and you see results. You're better off chasing performance and chasing reps because that incentivizes you to actually try to get more reps and try to increase your performance over time. And it gives you a lot of effort per set. I see a lot of people with this time under tension mentality. They're using half reps. They're not really going to failure. They just, 40 seconds, my set is done, when they were nowhere close to failure. So I would say thinking about time under tension is probably not the best way to go about things. Yes, it does matter, but it's more because you want that maximal tension, that maximal effort, and you want to be training somewhat close to failure. That's going to mean sets that do have a decent amount of time under tension, but it's not the time under tension that is actually the main factor. Number 16, strength doesn't matter for size. It's the idea that strength training and training for size are two totally different things. They have a lot of overlap. And if you look at a lot of powerlifters, especially in the off season when they're not peaking,
peaked. Let me tell you something. I haven't even begun to peak. And when I do peak, you'll know. Because I'm going to peak so hard that everybody in powerlifting is going to feel it.
They train suspiciously similarly to bodybuilders. If they're in a base phase, they are probably doing slightly higher reps, slightly more volume, slightly more exercise variations, which is a lot like how a bodybuilder seems to train. Similarly, a lot of very, very good bodybuilders are very, very strong. You look at Ronnie Coleman, you look at Stan Efferding, these guys could move some weight. Now, not every bodybuilder is going to be incredibly strong. I am not a super strong person, but getting stronger is the surest path to getting bigger, even for someone like me. Number 17, rest times. Now, there's this idea that you want to rest shorter in order to keep the pump, in order to keep the muscle fatigued. And for a natural, that doesn't make a lot of sense. Enhanced bodybuilders might chase that pump, and that might actually be optimal for them. However, again, if you are natural, you want to chase performance. You want to chase quality sets. And that means resting longer than 15 or 30 seconds after every single set. In fact, it probably means resting more than 1 minute. Okay, I don't time my rest periods, and I advocate you don't time them either, but you should be chasing performance. And that means being more or less almost fully recovered for every single set. And for the most part, if you find your performance absolutely tanking with every single set, you're probably not resting long enough. The grain of truth here is mostly for enhanced lifters, but if you're a natural and you're doing something like myo reps or rest pause or a cluster set or a drop set, yes, you are chasing metabolic fatigue and you are driving increased muscle activation through the fact that you are attacking that fatigue. And therefore, yes, you might only want to take a few seconds of rest. But that is an exception, and that should not be the majority of your sets. All right, number 18, genetics. Now, genetics are obviously not a myth. They are a real thing, and they do matter for muscle growth. However, one thing that I've seen over the past few years are people who are extremely pessimistic about what you can do with average genetics. You can have a 95th percentile physique, at least, with perfectly average genetics. Simply because most people barely fucking try. Most people barely go to the gym. They eat whatever the fuck they want. They don't actually even track their workouts. They don't keep a food log. They don't actually, train close to failure with a decent amount of volume. And, if you actually just bust your ass, even with average or below average genetics, you can look freaking awesome, even naturally. And so this kind of red-pilled mentality is almost getting out of hand at this point. People think that anyone with a decent physique is automatically on steroids or something like that. That is absolutely not the case, and I'm happy to bust that myth. Number 19 is that you need a caloric surplus in order to gain muscle. You don't. Okay, you can gain muscle in a deficit. Maybe not everyone all the time, but it is certainly physiologically possible. Some people use the logic of like, well, where's the energy come from if you're not in a surplus? It comes from fat. That's why your body stores fat, to have the energy in order to move as well as to build lean tissue when necessary. And it's just two compartments of energy. And your body can take from one and send to the other. Not that complicated. Now, the grain of truth is that it is generally easier to gain muscle in a caloric surplus. And this is the more true, the more advanced you get and the longer you've been training, just because you're less sensitive to training and you really could use that caloric surplus in order to spur new gains. And this is especially true the leaner you are. So if you're 10% body fat and natural, don't expect to gain much muscle, if any muscle, in a caloric deficit. Number 20, the pump. Now, this is something that it's not a bad thing. You know, if it happens, it happens.
He dies. He dies.
But naturals should not chase the pump. It should not be a main goal. By all means, you know, when you're about to leave, do a drop set on curls, get a nice biceps pump. But it is not going to be the primary driver of hypertrophy or progress. Progress is the main driver of hypertrophy. Okay, getting stronger over time, doing enough volume, it's not the pump. Okay, it might be for some people, and it's not a bad thing. And there is some evidence that it might help slightly, but again, it's only slightly. Anyway, if you made it to the end of the video, if you have that good of an attention span, you will definitely enjoy my book. It's currently $15, and I'm happy to plug this product, and I will keep plugging this product because it's my own product, it's my own video, it's helping a lot of people, it's very reasonably priced, and I work my ass off on this book. So grab it if you want it. It's going to be a great resource in your journey. All right, that's all for today. Like, subscribe, turn on those notifications, all that good stuff, and I will see you in the next video. Peace.
I guarantee you fright, cause I